3, we the people of the several states, we created the federal government and not the other way around. 4, the 10th Amendment, and I know many of you have heard of this, it codifies in law that the federal government can only exercise those powers that we delegated to it in the Constitution, and nothing more. 5, I think it's 5. We the people assembled in our respective states have the sole and exclusive right and authority to rule ourselves, to govern ourselves as we see fit for everything that was not delegated to the federal government in the Constitution. Just 2 more good ones. 6, a government without limits is a tyranny. And this is the one that I think is the most important. 7, when Congress enacts laws or regulations or mandates that are outside the scope of their constitutionally delegated powers, you are not bound to obey them. So these 7 simple truths, they're really all about sovereignty. We hear a lot about sovereignty in political discussions these days, but very few people really understand where it comes from. Sovereignty means final authority. All through history, sovereignty or final authority was in the hands of one person or 2 people, a king, a queen, maybe a small group of elites at the top of the food chain. Well, the founders and ratifiers gave us something unique, a first in all of history. You and I, the average people, we the people, held that final authority. We the people are sovereign. We the people are in charge, and they, the government, work for us. And the 10th Amendment makes it clear that we, the people of the several states, created the federal government to be our agent for certain enumerated purposes and nothing more. But unfortunately, very little that the government does these days, and it's been going on for a long time, folks, very little of what they do is actually authorized by the Constitution. Question: what do we do about it? A lot of good ideas. Do we call our congressmen and do we ask our congressmen to limit their own power? Do we march on Washington and do we demand that government limits its own power? Do we go to their courts and ask their judges to limit their power? Do we vote them out in 2012 or 2010? I've often been told that when you speak to a crowd, if you don't make somebody angry, you are not challenging their regular mode of thought. So hopefully I'm going to piss somebody off tonight. I've got a different recommendation. Thomas Jefferson and James Madison both gave us a very stark warning many years ago. They told us that if there were ever a time when the federal government became the sole and exclusive arbiter of the extent of its own powers, that power would always grow, regardless of protests, petitions, separation of powers, elections, courts, or any of the other vaunted parts of our system. They were right. For 100 years now, probably longer, we the people have been marching and protesting and demanding and voting bums out year in and year out. And year in and year out, government continues to grow regardless of the political party in power and regardless who is in office. The problem we face today really is about power. As long as the federal government has too much power, it will not matter in the long run who is in office. And while it's important to focus on the federal government, Thomas Jefferson and James Madison actually recommended doing something else along with that. Back in 1798, the federal government passed what Andrew Napolitano calls one of the most hated laws in the history of this country, known as the Alien and Sedition Acts. And what it did was it criminalized people for exercising the right of free speech and protesting against the federal government. I have 20 minutes. So what did Jefferson and Madison do? They wrote what was known as the Kentucky and Virginia Resolutions of 1798. And I'm just paraphrasing from it. This is what Jefferson wrote. Mind you, he was a sitting vice president. Can you imagine, when you hear this, just imagine someone like that guy Biden or even Cheney or who was the guy before him, Gore, saying this. The several states comprising the United States of America are not united on a principle of unlimited submission to their general government. Jefferson's birthday was 2 days ago, so we should celebrate his viewpoints. He went on to say, whensoever the government assumes undelegated powers, its acts are unauthoritative, void, and of no force. So that question comes up again. What do we do about it? Jefferson and Madison both had the answer. Madison said, it was the solemn duty of the state every time the federal government violated the Constitution to interpose and stand between you and the federal government to protect your liberty. And Jefferson said, whenever, every single time the government violates the Constitution, a nullification of the act is the rightful remedy. And so while it is important to vote the bums out, because they are all bums and thugs, it is important to challenge them in their courts. It is important to fill their mailboxes with our concerns, we'll call it. We are not supposed to sit here and wait 4 years every time they violate the Constitution. We're not supposed to wait 2 or 4, 6 years for some black-robed deities on the court to tell us that the government did something wrong. We are supposed to take action in our states immediately and nullify the act at home.